It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The NFL playoffs are here. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number one sportsbook in America, FanDuel. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers join today to get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome back to your source for fantasy hockey and degenerate gambling breakdowns. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. We're here for a big Waiver-Wire special episode. We got a couple of big-time bets for this mini one-game board steal, but we're happy to be back for another full week of fantasy breakdowns. Let's get this money, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? And happy Monday. Like I said off the top, this is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. Steele and I, we're out here Monday through Friday. Make sure you tune in and tap in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your content. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Steele, let's get started right into today because with Monday being so quiet on the betting front, we really don't have much to talk about at the end of the show while we usually do. This was a wild weekend in the NHL. We got e-bug goalies. We got all kinds of interesting news, but that just means that this is going to be a spicy week on tap, I think. And I really like some of my waiver wire targets, but I want to throw it over to you. How was your weekend, my friend? Who are you looking at this week? Let's get some of this money.
Yeah, weekend was great. Very excited. Parlays, a few of them were very, very close to hitting. I made a couple of bets that hit for me, so definitely turning the page on last week and the struggles. Yeah, exactly. Big golf guy as well, PGA Tour. But yeah, no, great weekend overall. Looking forward to this upcoming week. It is going to be a little bit of a light week because of the All-Star weekend coming up. A couple of games every now and again, but I believe the next week is actually a 2-week matchup for all fantasy leagues out there. So this is why we're talking about waiver wires every single Monday. Yeah. My first guy, it's a guy who I've talked about and a guy I'm very fond of. So I got to mention him again, especially about, I see these people out here who are using the Yahoo Fantasy League right now are sleeping on this guy, Logan Couture of the San Jose Sharks. He's still owned under 45%. He is so good out there right now. And the fact that he is under 45% owned and rostered on Yahoo Fantasy Leagues is absolutely absurd to me. And it's the exact example of what I was trying to showcase with a guy like JG Pageau. He'll go out and get some points, but it's really those peripheral stats that keep adding up. The great thing about Logan Couture is he's doubling the amount of points of JG Pageau right now.
Yeah, he's got a lot more offensive upside for sure.
Way more offensive upside, but he still adds the peripheral stats as well. And, like I said, he'll go out and record 4 shots, 2 hits, and a block. But then he'll also go out the next game and record 2 goals, 3 assists with the same amount of peripheral stats, just like he did the other night against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Good game for the Sharks, too. Sharks actually looking like they're pretty good right now.
Yeah. They were good. Obviously, the Penguins struggling with Casey DeSmith in the net. So that's a tough loss, not having Tristan Jarry. But again, he's 33, about to turn 34 years old in March. He has 19 goals, 42 points in 51 games on the season. He's an absolute sleeper in deep fantasy leagues and especially keeper leagues as well. He's at a 16 shooting percentage right now. And, it's incredible what he's doing.
He's been very consistent too, Steele, over the last, maybe almost his whole career, just always with the production on and off the ice leader for a San Jose Sharks team that obviously doesn't have a lot going on for it. I don't know. I can't help but feel that a bunch of these pieces in San Jose are going to be in play over the next couple of weeks. And when you look at a guy like Logan Couture playing this well, Steele, you know there's going to be some GMs that are going to come knocking. There's some playoff teams that he would look very good on. Maybe you and I have a couple of trade deadline specials on the way for some fantasy impact. I think that makes a lot of sense. We had the Locked On Sens guys on the show this past week, Steele, and they talked a lot about a number of different pieces, but Ridly Greig has got to be given a look in a lot of deeper formats for sure as a good dynasty ad, as a first-round draft pick, but he's playing with Giroux and DeBrincat. There's already some chemistry seen here, and the Ottawa Senators are starting to play good. And if you don't mind, because I have another Ottawa Senator, I'm going to ream off two of my waiver wire targets here very quickly. And I think you can see where I'm going with both, because there's some opportunity here on this banged-up Ottawa team. And Ridly Greig, like I said, DeBrincat, Giroux, both hot. He already has 2 assists in his first, 3 games now? I think
3 games now.
He's looking comfortable. Had a good season going in the AHL before coming up to the NHL. 23 points in 28 games down in the A. Like I said, a first-round pick. So much to like about the opportunity here, Steele, especially now that the Senators, I know it's 2 games, and I know one of them was Montreal, but they had a big-time win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's see what they can do even over the next couple of weeks here. You mentioned 2 games a week right now for all these guys. Number 2, Anton Forsberg. With Cam Talbot out, you mentioned it right after Talbot was hurt, and I said I'm going to talk about it a little bit more on Waiver Wire Monday, and here we are. Anton Forsberg, 10-10-2, 3.09 goals against, and a .906 save percentage. 2 shutouts, one just recently against the Montreal Canadiens Saturday night. He has allowed only 3 goals over his last 3 games, Steele, looking pretty good. And even if he wasn't, he's going to be the guy over the next number of weeks. And if he plays well enough, and I wanted your take on this, let's say Talbot's even out for a couple of weeks, right? This season might be a write-off unless they go on a very serious heater. If Anton Forsberg plays well over the next few weeks, and I mean very well, why would you go back to Talbot down the stretch? It's got to be Forsberg, right? Even more reason to go out and take a shot on him.
And that's the opportunity that he has to take control of right now, Anton Forsberg. It's all in his hands. The ball's in his court right now. So if he goes out there and can actually play like a true number 1 goaltender for the Ottawa Senators right now, even though they're all banged up, he will continue to get the starting job, and that value and percentage roster-wise will continue to go up as well. I've already put Cam Talbot on the IR. He's on my team. Right. But if that is the case, I'll drop him and go out and get Anton Forsberg if he is available, because if he's going to be playing good and getting the time, then you got to go with the guy who is getting the more starts. But I was also going to talk about Ridly Greig as well. He's also on my list. Absolutely exceptional to see what he's done. Like you said, 2 points in the 3 games, both of those being on the power play. And what an absolute, comfortable, confident, but what an absolute dream it is to get into the NHL, 20 years old, play alongside your childhood idol, and your first NHL career point is on a Claude Giroux goal. You're now on you're on the second line centering Claude Giroux and Alex DeBrincat. Like you said, he looks comfortable out there. He doesn't look scared. He doesn't look
sample
nervous.
Size so far, but you're right.
Small sample size,
impressive
but he looks great. And I think playing alongside Claude Giroux, that veteran presence, but also playing with his idol, is kind of helping it calm down a little bit. That game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, he had like 8 shots, 1 hit, 2 blocks.
Perfect spot for him right now.
Perfect spot for him. Again, playing on the second line with Giroux and Alex DeBrincat. He's getting power play time as well. 20 years old. It's incredible. So great story for Ridly Greig and the Ottawa Senators.
Great story. And I honestly think just even as a streamer right now, good for the rest of the season. But hey, he's a first rounder, Steele. Yeah. And this is a very, advantageous top 6, top 9 group to be a part of in Ottawa in general. Say what you will about what they're doing overall. This team is going to be good over the next couple of seasons and score a lot of goals. So why not take a shot on this guy in a keeper dynasty format as well? Might be tricky to keep him over the offseason and into next season, depending on how he does here, Steele. It's a short episode today, people. We got a few more waiver wire targets. I got 2 more. I do have a big flip triple dip tonight, Steele. And it's not just because there's one game. I'm actually feeling all 3 of these picks, and I'll explain it at the end of the episode. Why don't you take it away for this short Monday episode?
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on your favorite podcast platforms. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is the only app that you should be using out there, and you need it at your Super Bowl party. And it's FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. We're really excited about our sports betting partner for Locked On because they are the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's even better. They have so many great features that making bets on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can get Bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet, and you'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't hit. That's an absolute steal right now. So make sure you go get it for the Super Bowl. And FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to the point spreads to who will score the touchdown. And the Patrick Mahomes, he's going to find his boy Travis Kelce for the anytime touchdown. The chemistry's fire. That's what I'm betting on for this upcoming weekend as well. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. And best of all, you get paid all your winnings instantly. And my favorite thing about the FanDuel app is you get to see the popular same game parlays on who's betting on them right now. 2,000 people betting on the same game parlays. I might take a chance on that as well. That is a great feature of the app. So join FanDuel today and at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
This is Dane Lewis from the Locked On Stars podcast, here to let you know the following message brought to you by Discover. Did you know that you could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection, the latest innovation from Discover? Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data, and they'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app and see terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen. Flip, we got a couple more waiver wire targets. We're going to get to big time bets at the end of the episode. Who are you looking at for waiver wire targets?
Well, first of all, my bad for flipping us on that ad read there. I'll get us at the end of the show, so that's my bad. Shout out to AG1, that's coming up, so that's my bad right there. But I like my first two targets, and you mentioned the two games this week because of the All-Star Game. Next week, for those Ottawa Senators that I mentioned, they're playing 4 games, so add them now and benefit from this for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Very quickly, Steele. And lastly, I'll mention a player that I'm not going to break down too much, but next, I saw a couple of highlights from these Philadelphia Flyers over the last couple of games, and they have been a lot better over the last month. I know you're not a Torts fan, but they have been playing better, a pretty positive schedule overall. But Owen Tippett is a player that a lot of people gave up on because of how highly he was touted, fell in the draft, and then has not really done too much with his NHL career. But this year, Steele, playing now on a top line with Morgan Frost, a player I know you like, and JVR, they're putting up points. 14 goals for Tippett, 14 assists. He had a beauty over the weekend on Saturday. He has 1 goal and 3 assists over his last 4 games, and the Flyers play 4 games over the next week and a half. So he is going to get a good run out. This former 10th overall pick, Steele, he's got a good shot, and I really like what he's starting to do. Slow development, probably still a disappointment for a 10th overall pick, but don't write the book out on him yet. 23 years old, also a decent keeper dynasty pick down the stretch here.
I was going to say that about Owen Tippett as well. I think for next year's fantasy draft, he's one of those guys that you could probably, how this year we were talking about you could probably take a shot on a guy like Alex Newhook, a guy like Jack Quinn. Maybe start taking a shot on Owen Tippett towards the end of the draft, because maybe that's where he's starting to work up in the fantasy draft value as well. So I'm all here for the Owen Tippett take. I like him a lot, playing alongside Morgan Frost. My next guy is a goalie as well. I'm looking at a goalie.
Nice.
Sam Montembault of the Montreal Canadiens. We talked about the injuries. I know the goalies and teams are getting a little bit of a break because of the All-Star weekend. Not as many games this week, but Montembault has been great. 8% on ESPN, 25% rostered on Yahoo. Goals against average is a .319, save percentage a .909. His record 10-10-2. But all things considered, That's pretty decent for Sam Montembault and the Montreal Canadiens.
It
take
is.
In account that they don't have a great defensive blue line right there.
It's
they
true.
don't have a ton of offensive to help win those games as well, because now Cole Caulfield's out of the lineup. So all things considered, I think he's done a pretty stand-up job, and he has been the better goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens. Jake Allen has kind of been very, very hot, cold, hot, like very streaky goaltender. And what I really do like about Montembault is the amount of shots that he faces. He faces a ton of shots.
Which is weird to say about your goaltender, but
it is a lot. It is kind of weird, but just looking at the last couple of games, no matter what, if he's getting the wins or losses, he's facing a ton of shots. 31 saves, 36, 38, 36, 39, 37.
Wow.
A couple of 25s in there as well, but he faces a ton of shots. So no matter what, win or lose, whether you're in a categorical league, save percentage or goals against, that might be a little bit of a downside to him. But if it's just fantasy points and saves and shutouts and wins, you're racking up those points with a guy like Sam Montembault.
Very, very true, my friend. And when it comes to that goaltender situation, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, if you're going to have to fill in with guys, sometimes it's not going to be pretty, and you got to do what you got to do to try and stay afloat, especially given this point in the season. I'm pointing to my calendar here. Fantasy playoffs are right around the corner, Steele. It's not too far away. And if you're within that striking distance of those, you never want to be in those faux playoffs, the for fun you're in there, the consolation. Nobody wants to be a part of that. And getting a goaltender to just keep you afloat could be key. Sam Montembault, definitely a target. Very quickly, Steele, this Auston Matthews injury. We didn't mention it off the top, but this is a tough blow for a Toronto Maple Leafs team. Now Matt Murray goes down. We don't know what's going on there. Sure, Samsonov's been the better guy, but now all of a sudden a really good season for the Toronto Maple Leafs could start to get derailed here. You're going to need home ice advantage in that first round of playoffs if you're going up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, because if I don't know if you've been paying attention, the Tampa Bay Lightning are breaking records right now for 12 straight victories at home and all kinds of business. You do not want to go into Tampa Bay anyway. The Matthews situation is going to open up some opportunity here, Steele, over the next couple of weeks. And immediately you got to take a look at Alex Kerfoot. He hasn't had a good year so far, but he is going to get that second line center fill in while Matthews is hurt. And just by, 7 goals, 16 assists for Kerfoot, we expected more as Leafs fans, I think is safe to say, Steele, this year out of Kerfoot after a good stepping out season last year. Let's see if he can take the reins on some opportunity playing in the top 6 now with some good players. I believe he's going to play with Willie. So let's see what happens here on the second line. Kerfoot, definitely worth a look. Do you have any other players, or should I make up for this AG1 slip?
Last player I have to talk about. I do like the fact you're talking about Alex Kerfoot and the Matthews injury, because that is a good point for everyone to know.
By the way, very quickly, I found this stat. In 7 seasons with the Leafs, sorry to cut you off, my friend, the Leafers, 31, 17, and 2 without 34 in the lineup. Just a little tidbit for all you bettors out there.
All right, so that makes it a little bit more comfortable for me, because I was a little bit nervous for Auston Matthews the next 3 weeks out with this injury. I do want to mention real quick Frank Vetrano and Dylan Dubé. I think those are guys that you can take a look at. 5 to 10% rostered for each of them, and they have been playing great. But the other guy that I'm looking at is actually another Alex. And I mentioned him a little bit ago, Alex Newhook of the Colorado Avalanche. He's been playing a lot better the last 5 games. 3 goals, 4 points in the last 5. He looks more comfortable. He looks more confident, putting shots on net, driving to the areas for those rebinds, and getting a little bit more dirty than he's used to. Playing a little bit more as well. And, these are the times right now when you need to jump on these young players who are getting a little bit hot. We know that he's going to go in and out of cold and hot stretches, but he's 22 years old. There's clearly a lot more to work on for his game. He's been better in the face-off circle, but overall he needs to work on that. But when he starts to catch a little bit of heat, that's the time you have to snatch him up off the waiver wire target, and then again release him when he starts to freeze up a little bit. You got to pick these moments. And right now he's playing a lot better. Might be a little tough because teams only have 1 or 2 games this week because of the All-Star weekend. But again, for next weekend, make sure you're picking up a guy like Alex Newhook.
You know, I talked a lot about that player in the offseason, and he was disappointing to start the year, and he has been a lot better, Steele. So I think he really knocked it out of the park with that, and it's his confidence because he's got the skill. So let's see what he can do down the stretch with a Colorado Avalanche team that's starting to get healthy and healthier. So let's see what happens for that team as well.
Yes, sir.
We're going to get to the big time bets, my friends. Steele and I are switching it up today. I'm hitting the second break read because today's episode is also brought to you by Athletic Greens and AG1. It's a product that we literally use every day. And Steele and I started taking AG1 because it helps you age with grace. It helps your immune system. It helps you sleep better, more energy, and it's all natural. What else do you need to know? It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, and it contains less than 1 gram of sugar. Like Steele says all the time, no need for all these pills and supplements. All you need is a little AG1, 1 scoop in your water every morning before or after the gym, and it costs less than $3 a day for you to invest in your health. Athletic Greens AG1 has over 7,000 5-star reviews online and is recommended by pro athletes around the world and trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervais to make it easy for you to pick up Athletic Greens, because right now it is time for you to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's time to pick up 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase from Athletic Greens. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. That is athleticgreens/NHL Network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
I'm Kainani Stevens, host of Locked On Game to Game NHL. Join me as I take you inside every arena to every game and give you the Locked On local experts' insight. By the end, it's as though you were at every game yourself. Find Locked On Game to Game NHL on the Locked On NHL feed and follow today. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Steele, I'm bringing us back in from this second read. I'm not used to this. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day and tuning in to the podcast Monday through Friday. We couldn't be here with all that love, so make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit us a follow on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you take in this fantasy content. Steele, I like doing this little backwards today, pal. I'm going to throw it over to you for bets, maybe bet singular, because we only got 1 game, St. Louis at Winnipeg. And really, 2 teams, I don't know, like hard to watch right now. What's your take on what's happening in Winnipeg? Rick Bowness doesn't usually rip his team. He ripped the Winnipeg Jets, and I think they're going to play a lot better against St. Louis tonight, but that's just me.
Look, rightfully so, though. You know, where you look at where they're both at in the standings, like you said, the Philadelphia Flyers have played a lot better recently, and I guess I'll show some credit to John Tortorella. He's done a good enough job to get them going. You, it hurts me. It pains me to say that. Nonetheless, I think it is a tough matchup for the Winnipeg Jets to go up against the Flyers. They're a very gritty, physical team. The Winnipeg Jets can be so, but they're more skillful than the Philadelphia Flyers. So that might have played a part into it. But I'm going to take – I have 3 bets, and these are just the ones that I'm very comfortable with that I think
couple of triple dips. Let's go, Steele.
Triple dips. I'm going to start off with the Jets on the money line, minus 205 against the Blues. I think that's the easy one right there. Look, Jordan Binnington did his little tantrum the other day against the Colorado Avalanche. He's getting in other players' faces. I don't know about him. Whether it's Binnington or Greiss in the net, the Winnipeg Jets are clearly just the better team. So I'm going to take them on the money line. Just keep it a little bit safe. Second bet, Brayden Schenn anytime point. He has 4 points in his last 5 games. I don't know whether it's going to be a goal or an assist on the power play. I'm not sure. That's why I'm going anytime point. Brayden Schenn, he's been a lot better the last 5 games. And Pierre-Luc Dubois, anytime goal. He has 2 goals in his last 3 games. He's a difference maker this year for the Winnipeg Jets. He is an absolute star in this league. And the amount of times that I've seen him this year dominate games purely just by himself, setting up his teammates or just doing the dirty work in front of the net to get the rebounds where a lot of the goals come from, Dubois anytime goal would be my lock of the night. Those are my 3 picks.
When I watched that post-game press conference from Rick Bowness, he doesn't usually talk like that. And he was animated on the bench. He pulls Hellebuck. Hellebuck's got to be better. This team isn't scoring goals as well. Everything's now starting to fall apart a little bit. I know there's time. But for this team that I talked up pretty good, Steele, for a couple of weeks, Cole Perfetti not doing as much. Some of these guys need to really pick their game up, and I think that's going to start with, you mentioned a difference maker this year. Another one, Kyle Connor. Anytime goal. Kyle Connor needs to answer the bell here if he wants to be one of those guys with more respect on his name. Like we keep talking about underrated players. You don't want to be underrated and step up when your team really needs you and when they're struggling, and that's right now for the Winnipeg Jets. That's my first bet, Steele. My second bet, because of that struggling and because of them needing a good bounce-back performance defensively, especially from Hellebuck, I like the under here. It might be at 6.5. I might even get a little tease in here, lower my odd and raise it up to 7.5. I really do see this being a 4-2, maybe even 4-3 kind of thing. That's why I like it at 7.5. And my lock of the night, you mentioned it. It's one of your picks. It's got to be the Jets on the money line. They're the much better team, in my opinion. They're at home again. Winnipeg fans don't have a long patience here for a team that's underperforming badly right now, Steele. Maybe that's a bad angle for us to ride with it at minus 205. I disagree. I say Winnipeg on the money line. This might be a nice little same-game parlay for all you bettors out there. Yeah. Sprinkle a 10 or 20 and hit a couple of Steele and I's picks and thank us later.
Same-game parlays on FanDuel, baby. That's where the money is made.
That's it. Shouts to FanDuel.
Shout outs to FanDuel. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Like Flip said, we're available Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. It's a little bit of a light week, not a ton of games this week, so we're going to come hot with the content. Couple of trade, maybe some potential fantasy trades to look out there and what you can acquire these guys for. Thank you again for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen and tuning in for today's episode. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
Hi, this is Walker Mayo, one of the local hosts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Instead of hearing me right now, we could be talking about your business and helping you reach local, passionate sports fans just like yourself. Unlike any other podcast, Locked On gives your local company the unique ability to reach local podcast listeners. If your business wants to connect with local sports fans that are well-educated with disposable income, then let's put your company right here on this Locked On podcast. Local fans love to support local businesses. Text the word advertising to 33777 or visit lockedonpodcast.com/advertising and let us know who you are. Our team will assist you to achieve advertising success with Locked On. Once again, text the word advertising to 33777 or visit lockedonpodcast.com/advertising. We look forward to hearing from you.
Did you watch every NHL game last night? Of course not. That's impossible. So Locked On brings you Locked On Game to Game NHL. With Locked On Game to Game NHL, we take you inside every arena to every game and give you the Locked On local experts insight. And by the end, it's as though you were at every game. Find Locked On Game to Game NHL on the Locked On NHL feed and follow today. Locked On Game to Game NHL, taking you to every arena for every game with the local experts. Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.